Hi there, I'm Nathan Agan. Welcome to the Working Actors Journey Rehearsal Room. This is a project we started in June 2020, came out of all the time during the pandemic, and we are now embarking on Act 1, Scene 3 and 4 of our Hamlet project. If you're just joining us for the first time, yes, we have spent a month working on Act 1, Scene 1, a month working on Act 1, Scene 2. Just amazing at everything that we've been able to uncover and discover, and just some wonderful readings and acting performances in those scenes. Now, for those, again, if this is your first time watching this, if you're familiar with John Barton's RSC Playing Shakespeare series, that was absolutely an inspiration for this, and I see this as kind of a springboard off of that. We're totally unscripted. It's a wonderful way to see the creative process in real time. And what you're going to see, as I just mentioned, because it's unscripted, this is a work in progress. There's nothing final. There haven't been all these rehearsals before now on this scene. You're seeing in real time what we're coming up against and what we're learning about these scenes. It's a great opportunity, this medium, for people of all different generations and backgrounds and geographic areas to collaborate and learn from one another. And I believe that there is some degree of this, especially for those watching, if you're a theater lover or actor, that you can really kind of continue this history of apprenticeship where you get to learn by actually seeing how do people work on this material, what questions do they ask, how do people take direction, how to communicate your ideas, all the stuff that goes into having a long career and sustaining a long career. And as I mentioned, great ideas come from all over. So you'll probably hear, many various members of the group sharing ideas. This one has been one of the great things, that because no one actor is playing one role, you get everybody thinking about that role, which has been really fun. We're also exploring casting and in different ways, being conscious to age and race and gender. We will continue to post these sessions on YouTube for free for all to enjoy. So be sure to subscribe to our channel, click for notifications. You can also get this via podcast, and I am putting links in the description. Since this is a project that is free for all to enjoy, if you want to support the project through a one-time donation or becoming a member through Patreon, there are links below to do that. I'll say a quick thank you to some of our patrons: Joan, Michelle, Jim, Magdalene, Ivar, Claudia, Cliff, and Jeff. Thank you very much. With that, I think we can get started. I did want to say and share one kind of fun little tidbit I was thinking about, that the first 2 months that we've worked on this play, to me, kind of represents if we were to do like the first 2 days of rehearsal. You think if you have 2 8-hour days, and it's just, to me, it's mind-boggling to think of, could we have really uncovered everything that we've uncovered in the last 8 weeks in 2 rehearsal days? But that's kind of the equivalent amount of time. I think it's just extraordinary what everybody's done. And with that, I'll let everybody get to work. I'll turn it over to Annie, and I'll see you guys at the other end.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thanks. Okay, so here we go. One of the things that Randy and I talked about this week is to bring us up to the next scenes, that we should just go back and start from the top. We won't be doing this on a regular basis. I think, in fact, the next time we do the whole thing will be at the end of this 4 weeks. And that would be everything all the way through Act 4. I'm sorry, Scene 4. What I'm going to do is give you these parts. Some people may double, but when you are taking a role in the first scene, you will keep that role throughout all 3 scenes. All right, so let me put it out there. If you have any questions, then you can ask them. But Francisco Lee, Bernardo Nick, Marcellus Michelle, Horatio Randy, Claudius Jim, Gertrude Liz, Hamlet Ben, Polonius Chuck, Voltman Nick, Laertes Lee, Ophelia Sarah. And then we will do it again, because we'll then do just the new scene that we're looking at, and we'll change the casting, and that will be Polonius Randy, Laertes Nick, and Michelle Ophelia. Okay? Does everybody have that? Make sense? So I want to get through the first part and then we'll open it up to some feedback and some discussion, and then we'll try it again. If we can get 3 readings in, that's great. Last week, I thought we hit on a format that was very, very helpful in how we were able to go through the second scene 3 times and still have a pretty healthy discussion in between each one. So I'm hoping we can do more of that. Um, but let's jump in and see what happens.
So
Randy,
Annie, so Annie, what we're going to do is read from the beginning of the play through the Polonius, Ophelia, Laertes scene, correct?
that's right. We won't do the Hamlet
On the
uh,
battlement.
on the battlements. That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
We'll pick that up later.
Yeah.
And guys, really, please just have fun. Don't feel obligated to, know the folio, know the scansion and short. We realize that we threw so much at everybody without, a kind of. Some people have more knowledge of scansion. Other people have worked with the folio. I don't want to rob you of what you do best, and that is to play. Just enjoy yourselves. I think we have enough information about the circumstances and the characters to just jump in. I know I used to hate when directors would say have a good time, so I won't say it, but just be playful, okay? It's in your hands.
I'm sorry. I got everything organized this morning and I cannot find scene one. Scene one has totally disappeared. I don't know what to do.
You
Oh,
have scene two?
I had it this morning and I don't know what's been going on in my house, but I cannot find scene one.
take your time. Take your
This-
time, Liz.
There's scene three, there's scene two, and I cannot find scene one. So I can't.
Well, you're going to be in scene two as Gertrude.
That's
So,
right. So I'm not in scene one
right,
anyway.
so you can listen along, I think, and that'll help, okay?
Sorry, I don't know why I'm being so helpless here. Okay.
Great.
Who's there?
Nay, answer me. Stand and unfold yourself.
Long live the king.
Bernardo,
He.
you come most carefully upon your hour.
'Tis now struck 12. Get thee to bed, Francisco.
For this relief, much thanks. 'Tis bitter cold, and I am sick at heart.
Have you had quiet guard?
Not a mouse stirring.
Well, good night. If you do meet Horatio and Marcellus, the rivals of my watch, bid them make haste.
I think I hear them. Stand! Who's there?
Friends to this ground.
And liegeman to the Dane.
Give you good night.
Oh, farewell, honest soldier. Who hath relieved you?
Bernardo has my place. Give you good night.
Hola, Bernardo.
Say, what is Horatio there?
A piece of him.
Welcome, Horatio. Welcome, good Marcellus.
What? Has this thing appeared again tonight?
I have seen nothing.
Horatio says 'tis but our fantasy, and will not let belief take hold of him touching this dreaded sight, twice seen of us. Therefore I have entreated him along with us to watch the minutes of this night, that if again this apparition come, he may approve our eyes and speak to it.
Oh, tush, tush, 'twill not appear.
Sit down a while, and let us once again assail your ears that are so fortified against our story what we 2 nights have seen.
Well, sit we down, and let us hear Bernardo speak of this.
Last night of all, when yon same star that's westward from the pole had made his course to illume that part of heaven where now it burns, Marcellus and myself, the bell then beating one.
Peace! Break thee off! Look, where it comes again.
In the same figure, like the king that's dead.
Thou art a scholar. Speak to it, Horatio.
Looks it not like the king? Mark it, Horatio.
Most like. It harrows me with fear and wonder.
It would be spoke to.
Question it, Horatio.
What art thou that usurps this time of night, together with that fair and warlike form in which the majesty of buried Denmark did sometimes march? By heaven, I charge thee, speak!
It is offended.
See, it stalks away.
Stay, speak! Speak! I charge thee, speak!
'Tis gone, and will not answer.
How now, Horatio? You tremble and look pale. Is not this something more than fantasy? What think you on it?
Before my God, I might not this believe without the sensible and true avouch of mine own eyes.
Is it not like the king?
As thou art to thyself, such was the very armour he had on when the ambitious Norway combated. So frowned he once, when in an angry parle he smote the sledded Polacks on the ice. Oh, 'tis strange!
Thus twice before, and just at this dead hour, with martial stalk, hath he gone by our watch.
What particular thought to work I know not, but in the gross and scope of my opinion, this bodes some strange eruption to our state.
Good now, sit down, and tell me, he that knows, why this same strict and most observant watch so nightly toils the subject of the land, and why such daily cast of brazen cannon and foreign mart for implement of war? Why such impressive shipwrights, whose sore task does not divide the Sunday from the week? What might be toward that this sweaty haste doth make the night joint laborer with the day? Who is that can inform me?
How that can I, at least the whisper goes so, our last king, whose image even but now appeared to us, was, as you know, by Fortinbras of Norway, thereto pricked on by a most emulate pride, dared to the combat, in which our valiant Hamlet, for so this side of our known world esteemed him, did slay this Fortinbras, who by a sealed compact well ratified by law and heraldry, did forfeit with his life all those his lands which he stood seized on to the conqueror, against the which a moiety competent was gauged by our king, which had returned to the inheritance of Fortinbras had he been vanquisher, as by the same covenant and carriage of the article design his fell to Hamlet. Now, sir, young Fortinbras, of unimproved metal, hot and full, hath in the skirts of Norway here and there sharked up a list of landless resolutes for food and diet to some enterprise that hath a stomach in it, which is no other, and it doth well appear unto our state, but to recover of us by strong hand and terms compulsive those foresaid lands so by his father lost. And this, I take it, is the main motive of our preparations, the source of this our watch, and the chief head of this post-haste and roamage in the land. But soft! Behold! Lo, where it comes again! I'll cross it, though it blast me. Stay, illusion! If thou hast any sound or use of voice, speak to me. If there be any good thing to be done, that may to thee do ease, and grace to me, speak to me. If thou art privy to thy country's fate, which haply foreknowing may avoid, oh, speak. Or if thou hast abhorred in thy life, extorted treasure in the womb of earth, for which they say you spirits oft walk in death, speak of it. Stay, and speak. Stop it, Marcellus.
Shall I strike it with my partisan?
Do, if it will not stand.
'Tis here!
'Tis here!
'Tis gone. We do it wrong, being so majestical, to offer it the show of violence. For it is the air, invulnerable, and our vain blows, malicious mockery.
It was about to speak when the cock crew.
And then it started, like a guilty thing upon a fearful summons. I have heard, The cock that is the trumpet of the day doth with his lofty and shrill-sounding throat awake the god of day, and at his warning, whether in sea or fire, in earth or air, the extravagant and erring spirit hies to his confine. And of the truth herein, he this present object made probation.
It faded on the crowing of the cock.
Aye.
Some says that ever against the season comes wherein our Saviour's birth is celebrated, the bird of dawning singeth all night long, and then, they say, no spirit can walk abroad. The nights are wholesome, then no planet strike, no fairy talks, nor witch hath power to charm. So hallowed and so gracious is the time.
So have I heard, and do in part believe it. But look, the morn in russet mantle clad walks o'er the dew of yon high eastern hill. Break we up our watch, and by my advice let us impart what we have seen tonight unto young Hamlet. For upon my life, this spirit dumb to us will speak to him. Do you consent we shall acquaint him with it, as needful in our loves, fitting our duty?
Let's do it, I pray. And I this morning know where we shall find him most conveniently.
Oh, yet of Hamlet, our dear brother's death, the memory be green, and that it us be fitted to bear our hearts in grief, and our whole kingdom to be contracted in one brow of woe. Yet so far hath discretion fought with nature that we with wisest sorrow think on him, together with remembrance of ourselves. Therefore, our sometime sister, now our queen, the imperial jointress, to this warlike state have we as 'twere with a defeated joy, with one auspicious and one dropping eye, with mirth in funeral and with dirge in marriage, in equal scale, weighing delight and dole, taken to wife. Nor have we here embarred your better wisdoms, which have freely gone with this affair along, for all our thanks. Now follows that you know, young Fortinbras, holding a weak supposal of our worth, or thinking by our late dear brother's death our state to be disjoint and out of frame, collegiate with his dream of his advantage, he hath not failed to pester us with message, importing the surrender of those lands lost by his father with all bonds of law to our most valiant brother. So much for him. Now, for ourself and for this time of meeting, thus much the business is. We have here writ to Norway, uncle of young Fortinbras, who, impotent and bedrid, scarcely hears of this his nephew's purpose, to suppress his further gait herein, in that the levies, the lists, and full proportions are all made out of his subject. And we here dispatch you, good Cornelius, and you, Voltimand, for bearers of this greeting to old Norway, giving to you no further personal power to business with the king more than the scope of these dilated articles allow. Farewell, and let your haste commend your duty.
In that and all things we will show our duty.
We doubt it nothing. Heartily, farewell. And now, Laertes, what's the news with you? You told us of some suit. What is, Laertes? You cannot speak of reason to the Dane and lose your voice. What wouldst thou beg, Laertes, that shall not be my offer, not thy asking? The head is not more native to the heart, the hand more instrumental to the mouth, than is the throne of Denmark to thy father. What wouldst thou have, Laertes?
Dread my lord, your leave and favor to return to France, from whence, though willingly, I came to Denmark to show my duty in your coronation, yet now I must confess that duty done, my thoughts and wishes bend again towards France, and bow them to your gracious leave and pardon.
Have you your father's leave? What says Polonius?
He hath, my lord. I do beseech you give him leave to go.
Take thy fair hour, Laertes. Time be thine, and thy best graces spend it at thy will. But now, my cousin, Hamlet, and my son.
A little more than kin, and less than kind.
How is it that the clouds still hang on you?
Not so, my lord. I am too much in the sun.
Good Hamlet, cast thy knightly colour off, and let thine eye look like a friend on Denmark. Do not for ever with thy veiled lids seek for thy noble father in the dust. Thou know'st 'tis common, all that lives must die, passing through nature to eternity.
Ay, madam, it is common.
If it be, why seems it so particular with thee?
Seems, madam. Nay, it is. I know not seems. 'Tis not alone my inky cloak, good mother, nor customary suits of solemn black, nor windy suspiration of forced breath, no, nor the fruitful river in the eye, nor the dejected haviour of the visage, together with all forms, moods, shows of grief that can denote me truly. These indeed seem, for they are actions that a man might play. But I have that within which passeth show. These but the trappings and the suits of woe.
It is sweet and commendable in your nature, Hamlet, to give these morning duties to your father. But you must know, your father lost a father. That father lost his, and the survivor bound in filial obligation for some term to do obsequious sorrow. But to persever in obstinate condolement is a course of impious stubbornness. 'Tis unmanly grief. It shows a will most incorrect to heaven, a heart unfortified, a mind impatient, an understanding simple and unschooled for what we know must be, and is as common as any the most vulgar thing to sense. Why should we, in our peevish opposition, take it to heart? Why, 'tis a fault to heaven, a fault against the dead, a fault to nature, to reason most absurd, whose common theme is death of fathers, and who still hath cried from the first course till he that died today, this must be so. We pray you, throw to earth this unprevailing woe, and think of us as of a father. For let the world take note, you the most immediate to our throne, and with no less nobility of love than that which dearest father bears his son, do I impart toward you. For your intent in going back to school in Wittenberg, it is most retrograde to our desire, and we beseech you, bend you, to remain here in the cheer and comfort of our eye, our chiefest courtier, cousin, and our son.
Let not thy mother lose her prayers, Hamlet. I prithee, stay with us, go not to Wittenberg.
I shall, in all my best, obey you, madam.
Why, 'tis a loving and a fair reply. Be as ourself in Denmark. Madam, come. This gentle and unforced accord of Hamlet sits smiling to my heart, in grace whereof no jocund health that Denmark drinks today, but the great cannon to the cloud shall tell, and the kings rouse the heavens shall brew it again, bespeaking earthly thunder. Come away.
Oh, that this too solid flesh would melt, thaw, and resolve itself into a dew, or that the everlasting have not fixed his cannon against self-slaughter. Oh God! Oh God! How weary, stale, flat, and unprofitable seem to me all the uses of this world. Fie on it! Oh, fie! Fie, 'tis an unweeded garden that grows to seed. Things rank and gross in nature possess it merely. That it should come to this. But 2 months dead, nay, not so much, not 2. So excellent a king that was to this Hyperion to a satyr, so loving to my mother that he might not beteem the winds of heaven visit her face too roughly. Heaven and earth, must I remember? Why, she would hang on him as if increase of appetite had grown by what it fed on, yet within a month. Let me not think on't. Frailty, thy name is woman. A little month, or ere those shoes were old with which she followed my poor father's body like Niobe, all tears, why she, even she, oh heaven, a beast that wants discourse of reason would have mourned longer, married with mine uncle, my father's brother, but no more like my father than I to Hercules. Within a month. Ere yet the salt of most unrighteous tears had left the flushing of her galled eyes, she married. Oh, most wicked speed to post with such dexterity to incestuous sheets! It is not, nor cannot come to good, but break my heart, for I must hold my tongue.
Hail to your lordship.
I'm glad to see you well. Horatio! Or I do forget myself.
The same, my lord, and your poor servant ever.
Sir, my good friend, I'll change that name with you. And what make you from Wittenberg, Horatio? Marcellus?
My good lord.
I'm very glad to see you. Good evening, sir. But what in faith make you from Wittenberg?
Truant disposition, good my lord.
I would not have your enemies say so. No, you shall do mine ear that violence to make it a truster of your own report against yourself. I know you are no truant. But what is your affair in Elsinore? We'll teach you to drink deep ere you depart.
My lord, I came to see your father's funeral.
Pray thee do not mock me, fellow student. I think it was to see my mother's wedding.
Ah, indeed, my lord, it followed hard upon.
Thrift, Horatio, thrift. The funeral baked meats did coldly furnish forth the marriage tables. Would I had met my dearest foe in heaven ere I had ever seen that day, Horatio. My father. Methinks I see my father.
Where, my lord?
In my mind's eye, Horatio.
I saw him once. He was a goodly king.
He was a man. Take him for all in all. I shall not look upon his like again.
My lord, I think I saw him yesternight.
Saw? Who?
My lord, the king, your father.
The king? My father?
Season your admiration for a while with an attent ear, while I may deliver upon the witness of these gentlemen this marvel to you.
For heaven's love, let me hear.
2 nights together, had these gentlemen, Marcellus and Bernardo, on their watch in the dead waste and middle of the night, been thus encountered. A figure, like your father, armed at all points exactly, cap a pie, appears before them, and with solemn march goes slow and stately. By them thrice he walked, by their oppressed and fear-surprised eyes, within his truncheon's length, while they, bestilled almost to jelly with the act of fear, stand dumb and speak not to him. This to me in dreadful secrecy impart they did, and I with them the 3rd night kept the watch, whereas they had delivered both in time, form of the thing, each word made good, true and good, The apparition comes. I knew your father. These hands are not more like.
Where was this?
My lord, upon the platform where we watched.
Did you not speak to it?
My lord, I did, but answer made it none. Yet once methought it lifted up its head, and did address itself to motion like as it would speak. But even then the morning cock crew loud, and at the sound it shrunk in haste away, and vanished from our sight.
It's very strange.
As I do live, my honoured lord, 'tis true, and we did think it writ down in our duty to let you know of it.
Indeed, indeed, sirs, but this troubles me. Hold you the watch tonight?
We do, my
my
lord.
lord.
Armed, you say?
Armed, my lord.
From top to toe?
My
My
lord,
lord,
from
head to foot.
Then saw you not his face?
Yes, my lord. He wore his beaver up.
What? Looked he frowningly?
Oh, a countenance more in sorrow than in anger.
Pale or red?
Nay, very pale.
And fixed his eyes upon you?
Most constantly.
I would I had been there.
It would have much amazed you.
Very like. Very like. Stayed it long?
Oh, while one with moderate haste might tell 100.
Longer.
Well, not when I saw it.
His beard was grizzly, no?
It was as I have seen it in his life, a sable silvered.
I'll watch tonight, perchance to awake again.
I warrant you it will.
If it assume my noble father's person, I'll speak to it, though hell itself should gape and bid me hold my peace. I pray you all, if you have hitherto concealed this sight, let it be treble in your silence still, and whatsoever shall hap tonight, give it an understanding, but no tongue. I shall requite your loves, and so fare you well. Upon the platform, 'twixt 11 and 12, I'll visit you.
Our duty to your honor.
Your love as mine to you. Farewell. My father's spirit in arms. All is not well. I doubt some foul play. Would the night were come! Till then sit still, my soul. Foul deeds will rise, though all the earth o'erwhelm them to men's eyes.
My necessaries are embarked. Farewell. And sister, as the winds give benefit, and convoy is assistant, do not sleep, but let me hear from you.
Do you doubt that?
For Hamlet and the trifling of his favors, hold it a fashion and a toy in blood, a violet in the youth of primy nature, forward, not permanent, sweet, not lasting, the suppliance of a minute, no more.
Wait,
No
Nick,
more.
Nick, hold for a second, okay? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, guys. It got confused because I want you to save your Laertes for the last one and let
Oh,
Lee.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I just have a kind of plan in mind, so that's
Yeah.
why I'm stopping it. So Lee, could you come on and we'll start the scene again?
You bet.
I know what I'd like to have, so, okay,
You bet.
thank you.
My necessaries are embarked. Farewell. And sister, as the winds give benefit, and convoy is assistant, do not sleep, but let me hear from you.
Do you doubt that?
For Hamlet and the trifling of his favors, hold it a fashion and a toy in blood, a violet in the youth of primy nature, forward, not permanent, sweet, not lasting the suppliance of a minute, no more.
No more, but so.
Think it no more. For nature crescent does not grow alone in thews and bulk, but as his temple waxes, the inward service of the mind and soul grows wide withal. Perhaps he loves you now, And now no soil nor caudle doth besmirch the virtue of his fear. But you must fear his greatness, Wade. His will is not his own, for he himself is subject to his birth. He may not, as unvalued persons do, carve for himself, for on his choice depends the sanctity and health of the whole state, and therefore must his choice be circumscribed unto the voice and yielding of that body whereof he is the head. Then, if he says he loves you, it fits your wisdom so far to believe it, as he in his peculiar sect and force may give his saying deed, which is no further than the main voice of Denmark goes withal. Then weigh what loss your honor may sustain, if with too credent ear you list his songs, or lose your heart, or your chaste treasure open to his unmastered opportunity. Fear it, Ophelia, fear it, my dear sister, and keep within the rear of your affection, out of the shot and danger of desire. The chariest maid is prodigal enough, if she unmask her beauty to the moon. Virtue itself scapes not calumnious strokes. The canker galls the infants of the spring too oft before the buttons be disclosed, and in the morn and liquid dew of youth contagious blastments are most imminent. Be wary then. Best safety lies in fear. Youth to itself rebels, though none else near.
I shall the effect of this good lesson keep, as watchman to my heart. But good my brother, do not as some ungracious pastors do, show me the steep and thorny way to heaven, whilst like a puffed and reckless libertine himself, the primrose path of dalliance treads, and the wreak's not his own reed.
Oh, fear me not. I stay too long, but here my father comes. A double blessing is a double grace. Occasion smiles upon a second leave.
Get here, Laertes, aboard, for shame. The wind sits at the shoulder of your sail, and you are stayed for there. My blessing with you, and these few precepts in thy memory. See thou character, give thy thoughts no tongue, nor any unproportioned thought his act be thou familiar, but by no means vulgar. The friends thou hast, and their adoption tried, grapple them to thy soul with hoops of steel, but do not dull thy palm with entertainment of each unhatched, unfledged comrade. Beware of entrance to a quarrel, but being in it, bear that thou oppose may be aware of thee. Give every man thine ear, but few thy voice. Take each man's censure, but reserve thy judgment. Costly thy habit as thy purse can buy, but not expressed in fancy, rich nor gaudy, for the apparel oft proclaims the man. And they in France of the best rank and station are of a most select and generous chief in that neither a borrower nor a lender be, for loan oft loses both itself and friends, and borrowing dulls the edge of husbandry. This above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day. Thou canst not then be false to any man. Farewell. My blessing season this in thee.
Most humbly do I take my leave, my lord.
The time invites you. Go, your servants tend.
Farewell, Ophelia, and remember well what I have said to you.
'Tis in my memory locked, and you yourself shall keep the key of it.
Farewell.
What is it, Ophelia, he hath said to you?
So please you, something touching touching ham. Oh, sorry, I have like a weird thing here. Annie, I'm sorry to pause us for a second. What is supposed to be between the word
Touching the
the and
Lord
Hamlet?
Hamlet. Touching the Lord Hamlet.
The Lord Hamlet. Okay, thank you. So please use something touching the Lord Hamlet.
Well, bethought, 'tis told me he hath very oft of late given private time to you, and you yourself have of your audience been most free and bounteous. If it be so, as so 'tis put on me, and that in way of caution I must tell you, you do not understand yourself so correctly, and it behooves my daughter and your honor. What is it between you? Give me up the truth.
He hath, my lord, of late made many tenders of his affection to me.
Affection. You speak like a green girl, unsifted in such perilous circumstance. Do you believe his tenders, as you call them?
I do not know, my lord, what I should think.
Mary, I'll teach you. Think yourself a baby, that you have ta'en his tenders for true pay, which are not starling. Tender yourself more dearly, or not to crack the wind of the poor phrase roaming it thus, you'll tender me a fool.
My lord, he hath importuned me with love in honorable fashion,
Ay, fashion, you may call it, go to, go to.
and hath given countenance to his speech, my lord, with all the vows of heaven.
Aye, springes to catch woodcocks. I do know when the blood burns how prodigal the soul gives the tongue vows. These blazes, daughter, giving more light than heat, extinct in both, even in their promise as it is in making, you must not take for fire. For this time, daughter, be somewhat scanter of your maiden preference, set your entreatments at a higher rate than a command to parley. The Lord Hamlet believes so much in him that he is young, and with a large tether may he walk, then may be given you in few. Ophelia, do not believe his vows, for they are brokers, not of the eye, which their investments show, but mere implorators of unholy suits, breathing like sanctified and pious bonds the better to beguile. This is for all. I would not, in plain terms, from this time forth, have you to slander any moment leisure as to give words or talk with the Lord Hamlet. Look to it, I charge you. Come, your ways.
I shall obey, my lord.
Okay. Let's get everybody back on who has participated. Let me first open it up to you before I take over. Any observations or thoughts that anybody had either during the week about all of this or what we just did?
First
No.
scene was very intense, and as I think it should be, and it was much more than we've had it before. It really just moved, and there
Yeah.
was a lot of anxiety about it, and everything was really. I thought it was terrific.
I did too, Liz. I thought the same thing, that all of a sudden we were plunged into, even though the visual isn't even there yet, we were plunged into these men having to deal with something that was somewhat terrifying.
Yeah.
And I thought that all of the details of the circumstance, Rennie and I had a discussion this week. Circumstance is everything in a play. You really have nothing if you. And I remember when I was studying with Phoebe Brand, and she would stop people and say, "Where are you coming from?" And the person would say, the castle," and she'd say, where, no, where are you? And she would force us to get behind where, even that detail of where we were leaving and where we were arriving was essential to us speaking our first line. And who are you speaking? Are you speaking to a king? Are you speaking to somebody who's lower class? All of that has got to be at play. And I think we throw that out sometimes because we're so eager to please with our acting. And we tend to deal more with how do I deliver this rather than allowing the circumstances to actually help us bring it to life. And I thought that's what happened in that first scene. I thought the circumstances were there. And then I thought you were able to bring that into the next scene with Hamlet. It also sets up for the audience, again, a wonderful chance to participate in what they saw in that first scene and compare it to what Horatio and the other men tell Hamlet in the next scene. Was he pale? Did we see that? It also lets you know when you're doing the play when you some things that have to be there in that first scene physically in order to match what the men are saying to Hamlet when they finally see him. So you need to have this idea somewhere. Horatio, and I think we discussed this. Horatio has to see that ghost's face when the ghost is staring upon him, and there are sections in that first scene that allow that to happen. So that's great. The next circumstances that come into play, of course, is that next scene. Because we get to meet Claudius, we get to meet Gertrude, and we get to meet Laertes and Polonius. We get to meet Ophelia. If you're following the folio, she is in that scene. Quarto doesn't have her in that scene. But the more I think about the scene that follows, so much can come into play for both Laertes, of all three of them, and Ophelia, if she's witnessed what's taken place with Hamlet and Claudius. The other thing, too, that I started to, you can't help but want to stage this stuff. I mean, well, because you don't have, I think if Zoom has any benefit, it really says to you, yeah, I want to see it. I want to see it up on its feet because I want to see what could be happening. And I often think that it would be a wonderful moment if Ophelia could head towards Hamlet before she exits. And Laertes notices it and goes to Polonius, and the two of them have a moment where they're just watching. Hamlet's into his own grief, so he doesn't acknowledge her, and they take her off. But that tiny moment can set up what we're going to see in this scene that we're doing, this new scene that we've added. And again, that's my imagination trying to bring it to life. There are obviously other options, but I think the more you can connect, the same thing happens with Claudius. We're going to hear Hamlet say, smile and be a villain. That means that Claudius has got to find those moments to smile in that first scene. Because then the audience is getting it and the groundlings are getting it. It's not all about the words. It's not everybody understanding everything that's being said. It's the story unfolding both physically and with what's said. So wherever you can find those moments, I think it's so important to go further into the play because some reference might come up about something that happens in the first scene or in the second scene that you can use because you can bank on that having happened. So it's great to start to piece all of it together. So anything else? Okay, let me move right in now to the Laertes and Ophelia scene. Notice Laertes' language. Because I think any actor or any production that does this scene, if you're not going to cut it, has got to deal with the way Laertes speaks. Thews and bulks, the terminology that he uses is not direct, straightforward. It's couched in something. we ask the question, why? Okay. And we'll get to that in a minute because Lee, I want to engage in a conversation with you certainly about it because I know you have thoughts on it. But here's the other thing. What does it tell us about Ophelia? You know, here's a little interesting little tidbit. For the longest time, Ophelia was played by the woman who could sing. This was after Shakespeare's boys played it. And as long as you could sing, you had a shot at playing Ophelia because she was thought as a nothing character until the mad scene. An actress by the name of Helen Fawcett comes along and plays Ophelia. And a great actress brings life to what's considered a lesser role. And now all of these actresses start to clamor to do Ophelia. Ellen Terry does Ophelia. Julia Marlowe does Ophelia. But up until that point, she was a nothing. But it took a great actress to flesh out who Ophelia is. And some of it is right in this scene. She's got to be smart. She has got to be smart if he's talking to her that way. It's not just about Laertes understanding what he's saying. He's saying it. He's trying to change her mind about Hamlet. She's got to get it too. That tells us something about who this woman is. Hamlet loves her. There's another thing you got to bring into the scene. Is Hamlet going to just love any little, shrinking violet? That he's just going to, oh, the sweet little thing. I mean, I've seen productions where they actually dress her in green to make sense of Polonius as you speak like a green girl. It's absurd. But at any rate, past. But we have to look at Ophelia. You know, there's an interesting thing that happens when she says no more but so. There's no question mark there. And so you can take that line and do a of no more than so. Okay, fine, I'll go along. No more but so. Play with him. Show she can play back with him. She's the one who's going to say to him, don't be like these pastors who preach the thorny road and then go and sin themselves. She's going to say that to her brother. So my point in all of this, and this is why I swear to God, I think women gravitate towards men roles because we forgot how to play women's roles in Shakespeare. We play them as if they are milquetoast, these kind of shrinking violets that have no spine at all, and they are the greatest female roles that you could imagine. So here you have a young girl who's living in a society with a father and a brother, two men who are going to tell her how to behave because they know how men behave. Has nothing to do with their fear of how she's going to behave. The fear is that this is how men behave in the world. And Polonius knows about it, and Laertes knows about it, and so that's why the warning is there for Ophelia. But she is smart, and I think sometimes we don't give her credit for that. Okay? Think about that, Sarah, Sarah and Michelle, you're going to do it later. But give her a spine. Make her stand out. You have one of the greatest dramatic roles ever written, Hamlet. Who do you want him to be in love with? Just anybody? It's crazy. It's crazy. She's got to be special. And this is why she's going to go mad. Because she's got to obey her father. You know, she in this scene, and I won't harp, I know I'm harping on her, but I think it's because I'm a woman. But I think the other thing in this scene is she is tossing off the situation. He's been honorable. Even when Polonius says to her, what has he said? Give me a, what has he said? Something touching the Lord Hamlet. Touching. Just a little reference to the Lord Hamlet. She doesn't say, well, he just lectured me about having sex with Hamlet and getting into trouble. It's not what she says. She doesn't want to talk about it because she knows Laertes is a chip off the old block. I think that you can really start to get the understanding that The lecture he gives to Ophelia is not so much different from what Polonius is going to leave him with, the precepts that Polonius passes on to him. They live by adages. There's this saying and that saying, and there are some of the sayings that Laertes has that come from the Bible. Some of them are saying, they're not Laertes just being clever and making them up on the spot. And that's why we have those adages. They stick, they stick, and that's why he's using them. I think, too, you'll notice that when he speaks, and he gets somewhat flowery, and he uses language that doesn't seem terribly direct, he switches over. At one point, he says, "Fear it, Ophelia, fear it." He gets direct. So he tries very much to instill in her an understanding in a way that is almost, I want to say almost modest. He doesn't say, "Don't go screwing around with Hamlet." However, one would say that in Elizabethan, with Elizabethan English. But I think you get my point. That's not the warning is here is, think of this and think the chariest maid, he says. It's quite flowery. It's quite modest. The other question that I would put forth to you is he a little bit embarrassed to be talking about this to his sister? It's like when your parents have to tell you about sex and you're 12 years old and nobody wanted. My mother couldn't tell me that I was going to have a period. She couldn't say it to me, So I can imagine with Laertes, it's not, and it's his sister, it's not so easy to suggest that something sexual is going to happen and you're going to get in trouble, or you're going to have a child, because he's not going to be truthful to you. And we get the reasons why. Is this making sense to you? Can I see yeses, noes? Yes. All right. Polonius, reputation. Everything about him is even the first line, Chuck, the first line, "Yet here, Laertes, aboard for shame. They're waiting for you. They're going to talk about you not being on time." Reputation. And here's my precepts, reputation. Here's what you need to be careful of, because the French are superb at dressing, and don't borrow money, don't lend money, because you're going to lose the friend. Reputation. He has a thing about keeping that reputation, and we're going to see it play out when he comes to Claudius with the news that he thinks Hamlet is mad for the love of Ophelia, and he says, take this from this, if this prove otherwise. He says, "Here, I'll give up all that I have if I'm wrong." This means a lot to him, his reputation. And of course, when he has to deal with Ophelia, it kicks in even more.
He's in a very, I think Polonius is in a very delicate situation here with his children, because there is no mother. So he has to be a father and a mother, and has to balance that, particularly when he deals with his daughter. And like you say, he's very concerned about his public face, how he looks, how the family looks to everybody. And so yes, and he doesn't have a partner there to help him, advise him on this. So he goes, "This is how it has to be." And he becomes a bit dogmatic, consequently.
Yes,
I think.
and let me add to that, because I'm glad you brought it up. It's one of the reasons I would ask you all to think twice about making Polonius Polonia, because it is a father having to deal with a daughter. I just spoke to my nephew last week. His son is 15, and he's got a crush on a girl. And my nephew says to me, "I don't mind." He says, I'm kind of happy for him. He said, "I don't know, if I had a daughter, I might feel different." So that is not that. I understood exactly what he meant. And Polonius has that. That's the task here. Polonius has a daughter. So I think that there's something here. I go back to frailty, thy name is woman, and how men treat women in this play. Claudius, come away, Gertrude, come away. He's going to say it throughout the play. He's going to tell her, do not drink, Gertrude. This is a man's world, and these women have to navigate in it. So here's a place where I think you have to be, at least if you're going to do Shakespeare's play, you're going to do your own because you have feelings about it and you need to cure all the social ills of the world because people were left out, then do your thing. But it's not Shakespeare's play because you're cutting out a very important part of it. What is it to be a woman in a man's world? I mean, do we have a woman's president, folks? We're not so far away from it. So Chuck, yes, I think when you say, it's the same thing happens in Lear. There is no mother. So he is the father. The other thing too, I want to add to that is when you look at the conversation between Ophelia and Polonius, it progresses. First, he says, what did he speak to you about? She says something touching the Lord Hamlet. He has been wonderful to me. There's been nothing, he hasn't done anything wrong. She keeps defending Hamlet's approach to her. And you're the one who turns it into, fashion, you may go. Oh, you speak like a green girl. He criticizes her responses to Hamlet because she's making it nothing. She's saying it's all honorable. Okay, now we move forward and he starts to get even more strict about it. And we'll come to the final conclusion of, I will not have you see or talk to him. He did not come into the room with that. It's not what you play from the beginning. Two of you together have to make that happen. And Ophelia, you have to allow him, you have to have your part in this that says, no, it's nothing. He's pursued me in honorable fashion. And then then he can come to the conclusion, I have to be stricter about this. When I'll say one other thing, and that is his motive of operation is spying. That's how he finds out his information. It's told me that you have given private time to him. And who is the man who's going to hide behind the arras? Polonius. Who is going to send Rinaldo to spy on Laertes? Polonius. So this is something that he knows how to do to find out the information that he needs. Some of this may be obvious to all of you. I'm Italian. I get very passionate about it. So anybody have,
I was just thinking about, I don't know, a lot of I keep coming back to some of the same points, which is hearing all of this uncut again just makes me, realize different things are required. And I almost never hear that whole Laertes speech. And so, and so you've already made the point, he is a little, Polonius in training. And it makes me think of the casting of Laertes, which, and I mean, no offense to any actor that's ever played Laertes, but I often find it to be the casting that feels like a bunt. It often just feels like the generically good-looking soap guy in the show is often Laertes. Some of them very, very good, but I often don't feel like much of a statement is made with the casting of Laertes, other than just find a good-looking guy who can fight that Hamlet could be a little jealous of. I mean, that's often what it seems like to me in film, and so it made me wonder, though. What I've never seen is somebody cast who is going to be a good Polonius in 30 years and cast that person as Laertes. I don't know. I think there could be something, somebody a little more character actory or something in that, who you could see growing up to be this shrewd, pedantic guy rather than just a jock. I feel like a lot of times Laertes is just the best looking jock in the show. And it just, I don't know, that made me think about that a little bit, and how I might cast it differently than I normally do.
I think it's a great exploration. I mean, when you read Masks of Hamlet, there've been all sorts of Laertes. They're looked at as a playboy. He's been, and he carries a tennis racket with him because Polonius is going to talk about tennis, or he's studious. So they put glasses on him because we all know people with glasses are studious, and or they make him dress gaudy. They put him in clashing clothes so that the line about rich not gaudy makes sense, or they put something on him that Polonius can take off and say, ha, rich not gaudy, and so they come to a conclusion based on what Polonius is saying or what we find out. I mean, what's going to be very interesting about Laertes, I think, of course, is when he comes back after Polonius is killed. And the way he comes back to Denmark with vengeance. I mean, he wants vengeance for his father's death. And it's not the Laertes we see leave. There's a different, Laertes has been changed by the events that lead him coming back. So it's going to be interesting to see that. But I agree with you, Ben. Who is he? Who is he? And I don't think that he is just a handsome, pretty boy. I think there is something else there. I think Chuck, you may have, somebody had mentioned it early on, though, is that we have to see the love that this family has when he leaves. I think there's a moment there of embrace. There's something there where, you can even feel like maybe Polonius wipes a tear, hides it maybe, but that these people love each other. This is a loving family, and they're all going to die. So we have to miss them. So if they're unlikable from the get-go for any reason, and I've seen Polonius is played, and they do this with Gloucester too. They play him like a bumbling idiot. He never would have achieved the position that he has if he was a fool. The man knows how to help Claudius get the throne. And again, he has some in with the court. So I don't think all you have to do with Polonius, I believe, is to analyze what he's saying, the situation he's in, and the fact that he has to get this done. Again, not only to save and spare his daughter, but his own reputation is at stake as well. This is not, and they both, let me also say that they both understand something that she may be missing, and that is Hamlet cannot choose for himself.
I think that's the most important thing that Laertes does, is supports that.
I think that's there. And if he can't choose for himself, and she does fall in love, she loses on every level. So go ahead. Did you want to expound on that, Lee?
Just that, yeah, that's what I really get out of that speech, and I'd see the tendency or attraction of comparing Polonius and Laertes, and yes, there are some similarities, but when you look at the through line of what Laertes is saying, it's really, it's not a bunch of good, a laundry list of adages. It's
a section of it is. You have about 3 of them in a row there that are closer to adages that he is passing on. It's towards the end when he talks about the
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep, he buttons it with
and that's
that.
what I'm referring to. Yeah.
Sure. But the main body of it, he's really trying to get her to understand that Hamlet is untouchable, and I mean, it's a critical moment in maturity for her, maturing, I guess. He's trying to make her understand that distinction. Yeah, I get it. You're in love. He said he loves you, and I think we need that because that's part of Hamlet's, I don't know if it's his central problem, but it's a big chunk of his central problem is that the position, royalty, the whole construct there is something that he lives within and has to be responsible to. And the more we get that in crystal terms early on, I think we understand his struggle even
I
better.
do too. And I think this is why that scene is so important, because we see that happen in that scene. He cannot go to Wittenberg. He is subject to whatever Claudius wants, and it may be done in the most generous of terms. You are the nearest to our throne, and and all of but it is Claudius who's calling the shots for Hamlet and Gertrude. And
And
so
for Ophelia, when he says that, if she's in the court, that's a win,
that's yeah.
that's a win for Ophelia. And
Can
Yes.
an
I say something
opportunity to,
else about Ophelia? It's absolutely obvious, but it's not obvious to many, many directors how important virginity is. And, I mean, that's what they're both talking about. And, so many productions, including the travesty that's just been done here in LA, have her, I mean, the first moment is he takes off her knickers. I mean, if you can imagine that. Hamlet takes off Ophelia's knickers. So many productions make that a sexual relationship, which is so wrong. And as it's established right here.
Yes.
I think that this scene here is a very transitional scene, a transitional in the relationship between Ophelia and Laertes. I think, but I get the sense now that before this they were kids together, playing around the castle, and she still wants to have a little bit of that, but now he's starting to take the big brother role, and I think that's very jarring for her to be treated. He's treating her more like a father than her I think her playmate, her confidant. So I think I think it brings up some very disturbing emotions maybe for her
And
too.
he's leaving. I mean, that's the other circumstance. He's leaving. So what he has to leave her with is hopefully something that will stick for her, something that will keep her from. And that's why I think he actually, for me, when he says, fear it, Ophelia, fear it, he says it twice, that he puts fear in her. It's not just think about it. He's trying to almost frighten her from having this affair go any further, because that's
she's
what he's going
naive
to leave her with. Yeah, go
to the
ahead.
politics. She's naive, I think, when it comes to the politics, the worldliness, and that's what she really becomes exposed to in the harshest, deepest cut of a way, is just the savagery of the world. And if she begins with that purity, that just helps that journey be powerful, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think too it's interesting to me that Hamlet's last words to his mother is, I shall in all my best obey you. And the last thing that Ophelia says to Polonius is, I shall obey, my lord. So there's a father child connection, that one says, I will. Now Hamlet says, I shall, I in all my best, I will. I'll try. His almost sounds like I'll try, but she says, I shall obey, my lord. And we have to take that as the truth. I've seen productions where the Ophelia basically makes a face behind his back, or she's not going to go along with it. But it's the very thing that's going to cause the problems of Hamlet coming into her chamber after being rejected. Um, you know,
I think,
yeah,
for instance, Polonius, he gives very good advice, actually, to both of his children. He doesn't give them bad advice. I mean, what he tells Laertes is, how to get on in the world, and not to be hurt by the world. And he's concerned for Ophelia. This is, I think, out of love. It's not out of a desire to control or conquer. It's out of love. He doesn't want his daughter to get hurt. And I get the impression that Hamlet must have some sort of reputation of toying with women's emotions or something, because he
Or
some
people
of the
in power generally.
Yeah, I
yeah
disagree.
Yeah.
yeah
Only because I think that you have to look at what she's saying as well. The only woman we know that he has any relationship with, and he's been in Wittenberg, so whatever
right
he's doing there, we have no knowledge of. But
right.
so he's back for his father's funeral, and I think that he writes what we hear from Polonius later on is that he's written letters to Ophelia, and that would make sense if he was away from home. But we have no notion of him being with other women. I mean, there's just nothing in the play, so it's an assumption that you're I think you're holding on to, but it'd be very, very hard to prove that it really has.
So look, I agree, but Polonius doesn't trust Hamlet. He doesn't, because they all grew up together. Is the assumption I make that they're not new to the block, to the neighborhood. They all kind of grew up together. The three kids,
Let me
Hamlet,
put one thing to
right?
you
So
to think about.
and Polonius has been part of the
Hamlet
court.
doesn't trust men because he is the one that I would suspect had some women on the side because he knows what men are like.
Yeah,
So that's what I think that he's operating from. And he says, I do know when the blood burns. He
right, he
knows
says,
he's
right,
coming
right,
from a point of knowledge. So I think that it's more about what he knows and has how he's behaved as a man that he's passing on than anything that he knows about Hamlet and whatever affairs Hamlet
right.
has.
Yeah,
Um,
that's much better to play actually, is for an actor. Keep it personal.
yeah.
Well,
Wait.
also, this is a screwball or a curveball, but this is Scandinavia, and they're either Vikings or descendants of Vikings. Does that have any play in the construct of production?
Well, I think I think what you have to do is you have to look at the source material, which is Saxo Grammaticus, and that is, that's Danish. We have a story that comes right out of Denmark. And one of the things I was going to save it for later, but one of the things that we learn about when the setup, for the nunnery scene, there's a section in the Saxo Grammaticus where the theory is if a man is mad, and in the story, first of all, they take the young lady. It's not his daughter, but it's a young woman that they're going to try to find out if Hamlet's mad for her love. They dress her as a whore. They put makeup on, make her very seductress. If he is normal, if he is sane, he will immediately want to engage in some kind of physical, sexual time with her. If he's mad, he won't touch her. Um, and in the story, he doesn't touch her. He's been told, he's also been on to the story. But I thought it was an interesting thing to set up that the normal man would jump her bones. So that's the normal, the sane guy does that. The crazy guy steps away from it. So and this isn't a Danish story. I don't know that it can, you can probably pass it on all over the world. But I thought it was an interesting view of things, that because it does reflect what Polonius is saying about men, and it reflects what Laertes is basically saying about men, that they both know. I think, Lee, I think you're right. However, in Laertes' advice to her is more about Hamlet's station and his inability to move forward in loving her deeply or marrying
Having it
her or any of that. That's right.
exactly.
I
Yep.
think for
Yep.
Polonius, I think it's a little bit different. I think Polonius sounds actually as if he's concerned from what he's heard about Ophelia's willingness to see more of Hamlet, to And her behavior, I think, even makes him more doubtful of her, because she's not seeing, she's not showing some kind of fear that of this relationship. But there's a difference between, there's a shade of a difference between the two. One has to do, I think, with the inability, and the other is you're going to get screwed. You're really going, he's going to abuse you. And you also say, tender yourself more dearly, or not to crack the wind of the phrase too much, you'll tender me a fool. And that means I'll be called a fool, but it also means you're going to produce a baby. A fool is also a word for baby. So that's the concern. I think it's a little different between the two. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Definitely.
Um, but now I just want to be able to look at the progression of it. What happens to Ophelia when Ophelia hears what Laertes? Look how it starts. My necessaries are embarked. He's ready to go. And don't let a day go by without writing to me. And she says, not a chance. Do you doubt that? And boom, we're into Hamlet before he goes. So even in his haste to leave, and this is what's delaying him, by the way, with when Polonius has to come get him, he's being delayed because he's taking the time
To look up for his
sister and to pass this on. Does she get it? Oh, I mean, he does go on. So what do we do? Now, again, the productions where she covers her ears, she helps pack his clothes, she plays an instrument, but she stays preoccupied with other things, not to listen to him. I don't know. Again, I don't know that it's necessary. I'd rather at least start at a point of what is she taking in? How does she feel about what he's saying? There was a time, as you were doing it, I have to say, there was a moment where I felt she could try to interrupt, because you left room, you almost left a little room, and then you come back in with the next line. You know what I mean? It seems like that's perhaps where we might want to start, at least, to say, no, and then he keeps speaking. But it's something that we have to take a look at. Yeah.
Yeah, just in that same vein, I think that one of the, I call it a mistake that I often see in this scene, is that people default immediately to, oh, you could play a game. You could do a game like you probably did when you were 12, that kind of thing. So the point, that information about Hamlet is primary. That's got to get through. And of course other stuff as well. But if it all gets lost to movement, the audience is just not going to hear it. So yeah. And I know you're not suggesting that. I'm just talking about more
No,
direct things
and
I
as you're
suppose say.
speaking, one of the things that occurs to me is that he's trying to get that across, and being sensitive also to her feelings about Hamlet. So he's not, he's not cruel in saying to just let it go. He's trying to get her to come to the same conclusion that he's trying to give to her. I think that's why he says what he says the way he says it. Because when he says that, is that you have to understand that here's how the body doesn't just grow physically, that the mind grows with it. I mean, I think it's a wonderfully sensitive way to suggest. He's not saying he's a cad, don't go near him. He's saying maybe he loves you now. And nothing is bad about that. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's going to change. That has to change. So I think there's a kind of trying to get her to see it. And
It's like he's
stating,
assuming she's got a fairy tale image all the way up to becoming the queen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's ultimately what he's saying. Hamlet's got to make that track, and you are not qualified to make that journey with him. So
Yeah.
it's like he's dispelling this fairy tale in her head as
And
he
what's so
sees it.
wonderful as you say that is when he comes to her, and he now, Polonius says it's for her love, and Gertrude says, I hope you are the cause of his madness and that you can bring him back to it. She is able, doesn't matter her station anymore, she can be the savior and become his wife. It's an incredible thing that happens to her.
Hmm.
And again, when she comes and says, Polonius comes to the conclusion, mad for thy love, he is opening up something that puts her in a beneficial place that you're saying in this early scene she didn't have a chance. She doesn't have a chance as Ophelia. She has a chance as the curer of his madness, and that
Hmm.
will change
Hmm.
as we move forward. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Anything
Annie,
else? Yeah.
why is the like second bit that Laertes says a question?
Which one?
The for Hamlet all the way through the suppliants of a minute, and then there's a question mark.
Oh, I think it's again that idea of, do you understand? Are you getting it? You know, it's not a question that he wants an answer for,
Mm-hmm.
but it's this sort of thing that it's going to happen a lot in the play, where it's really a question of do you get it? That kind of thing.
Okay.
It's in Hamlet says phi on it, phi. It's
Yeah.
not a question. The question mark is there, but it's not a question. And a lot of texts make it exclamation, but I don't. It's not an exclamation. It really is a sense of are you getting it?
And leading into that is an interesting use of the punctuation because it's three semicolons, one
Yeah.
after the other,
Yeah.
and you rarely see one
Yes.
following the other like that
Yes.
in a group.
And those semicolons, the thing about that semicolon is that downshift. So he's not hammering, he's not jumping ahead. There's a sense of really downshift to try to get her to understand it. Cassius has it in Julius Caesar, and people always play him as if he's all colon in trying to convince Brutus, but he has semicolons that really make you feel like, okay, they're trying to convince somebody without beating them over the head with it. This is just a little difference between them.
Hmm.
Also, if you're looking at the punctuation, you notice too some of the long spellings at the end of his lines. I think that becomes
Hmm.
interesting too. Um,
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
that stretching out of that word, and you play with it, it falls into that pattern of somebody who's trying to communicate with someone about something important, and you must hold on to it. And she says at the end, I'll keep as locked into my heart. I'll keep whatever you said. I will allow it to guide my heart. And that's what he had asked for. Remember, he doesn't want her to be passionate. Don't allow your passion to take over, he says. And so he leaves. I think he leaves with a sense, or I'll ask the question, does he leave with a sense of, okay, I think she's got it? I think so, only because wouldn't he have continued? You know?
Well, she does say, I shall the effect of this
Yeah,
good lesson keep. I'll do
yeah.
it as
And
watching
you
into my heart.
yourself, I won't tell. And that's the thing about Polonius, too. And you yourself shall hold the key to it, she says. I'm
Mhm.
not going to tell anybody else. You will hold the key to it. And here's Polonius. What is it he said to you? Well, now that changes, doesn't it? We're going to have to share it with Polonius. It's all beautifully connected,
Mhm.
right? Shall we read it again with our new little cast and see what we got?
And that would be,
You know, you don't think that these scenes, they're tiny little scenes in some ways for this massive play, but they are essential. And as I said, and I think we've all now pointed that out. Chuck pointed out that she has no mother and he has to be mother and father to her. You've pointed out that the important thing is Hamlet's station and that you're never going to be able to marry him. You know, and I'm pointing out that we have to see that these people love each other when they say goodbye. And then we're ready to move on. Okay.
can I just say one thing about staging?
Beast.
Just a staging thing I noticed. And this follows the idea of having Ophelia in the first scene. Another opportunity is at the end of this scene where the next scene is Hamlet, etc., and company on the battlements. It's the same scene. And if Ophelia leaves last and Hamlet is on first above, there can be a moment where
Wonderful.
they are
Yeah.
on together in the same
Yeah,
space.
that's beautiful. Yeah. Nice. Let's hear it, guys. So everybody knows who they are, right?
No.
Well,
Repeat it.
we're going to do the new cast. Now, Randy is going
Yeah,
to do
which is
Polonius, and Nick, you'll do Laertes, Michelle, Ophelia.
great.
My necessaries are embarked. Farewell. And sister, as the winds give benefit, and convoys assistant, do not sleep, but let me hear from you.
Do you doubt that?
For Hamlet, and the trifling of his favors, hold it a fashion and a toy in blood, a violet in the youth of primy nature, forward, not permanent, sweet not lasting the suppliance of a minute. No more.
No more but so.
Think it no more. For nature crescent does not grow alone, infuse in bulk, but as his temple waxes, the inward service of the mind and soul grows wide withal. Perhaps he loves you now, and now no soil nor caudle doth besmirch the virtue of his fear. But you must fear his greatness weighed, his will is not his own, for he himself is subject to his birth. He may not, as unvalued persons do, carve for himself, for on his choice depends the sanctity and health of the whole state. And therefore must his choice be circumscribed unto the voice and yielding of that body, whereof he is the head. Then if he says he loves you, it fits your wisdom so far to believe it, as he in his peculiar sect and force may give his saying deed, which is no further. Then the main voice of Denmark goes with all. Then weigh what loss your honor may sustain, if with too credent ear you list his songs, or lose your heart, or your chaste treasure open to his unmastered importunity. Fear it, Ophelia. Fear it, my dear sister, and keep within the rear of your affection, out of the shot and danger of desire. The chariest maid is prodigal enough, if she unmask her beauty to the moon. Virtue itself scapes not the calumnious strokes, the canker galls, the infants of the spring too oft before the buttons be disclosed. And in the morn and liquid dew of youth, contagious blasphements are most imminent. Be wary then. Best safety lies in fear. Youth to itself rebels, though none else near.
I shall the effect of this good lesson keep, as watchman to my heart. But good my brother, do not as some ungracious pastors do, show me the steep and thorny way to heaven, whilst like a puffed reckless libertine himself, the primrose path of dalliance treads, and recks not his own reed.
Oh, fear me not. I stay too long, but here my father comes. A double blessing is a double grace. Occasion smiles upon a second leave.
And here, Laertes, aboard, aboard, for shame! The wind sits in the shoulder of your sail, and you're stayed for there. My blessing with you, and these few precepts in thy memory see thou character. Give thy thoughts no tongue, nor any unproportioned thoughts his act. Be thou familiar, but by no means vulgar. The friends thou hast and their adoption tried, grapple them to thy soul with hoops of steel. But do not dull thy palm with entertainment of each unhatched, unfledged comrade. Beware of entrance to a quarrel, but being in, bear it, that the opposed may beware of thee. Give every man thine ear, but few thy voice. Take each man's censure, but reserve thy judgment. Costly thy habit as thy purse can buy, not expressed in fancy, rich, not gaudy. For the apparel oft proclaims the man, and they in France of the best rank and station are a most select and generous chief in that. Neither a borrower nor a lender be, for loan oft loses both itself and friend, and borrowing dulls the edge of husbandry. And this above all, to thine own self be true. And it must follow, as the night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man. Farewell. My blessings season this in thee.
Most humbly do I take my leave, my lord.
Time invites you. Go, your servants tend.
Farewell, Ophelia, and remember well what I have said to you.
'Tis in my memory locked, and you yourself shall keep the key to it.
Farewell.
What is Ophelia he hath said to you?
So please you, something touching the Lord Hamlet.
Ah, marry, well bethought. 'Tis told me he hath very oft of late given private time to you, and you yourself have of your audience been most free and bounteous. If it be so, as so 'tis put on me, and that in way of caution, I must tell you, you do not understand yourself so clearly as it behooves my daughter and your honor. Now what is between you? Give me up the truth.
He hath, my lord, of late made many tenders of his affection to me.
Affection? Pooh! You speak like a green girl, unsifted in such perilous circumstance. Or do you believe his tenders, as you call them?
I do not know, my lord, what I should think.
Marry, I'll teach you. Think yourself a baby, that you have ta'en his tenders for true pay, which are not starling. Tender yourself more dearly, or not to crack the phrase of the wind of the poor phrase, roaming it thus, you'll tender me a fool.
My lord, he hath importuned me with love, in honorable fashion.
Ay, fashion you may call it. Go to, go to.
And hath given countenance to his speech, my lord, with all the vows of heaven.
Ay, springes to catch woodcocks. I do know when the blood burns, how prodigal the soul gives the tongue vows. These blazes, daughter, giving more light than heat, extinct in both, even in their promise, as it is a making. You must not take for fire. For this time, daughter, be somewhat scanter of your maiden presence. Set your entreatments at a higher rate than a command to parley. For Lord Hamlet, believe so much in him that he's young, and with a larger tether may he walk than may be given you. In few, Ophelia, do not believe his vows, for they're brokers, not of the eye which their investments show, but mere implorators of unholy suits, breathing like sanctified and pious bonds, the better to beguile. And this is for all. I would not, in plain terms, from this time forth have you so slander any moment leisure as to give words or talk with the Lord Hamlet. Look to it, I charge you. Come your ways.
I shall obey, my lord.
Okay, we're moving forward. I want to, one thing I do want to say quickly is importune. Importune is not good. Importune. The other thing too is I want to just point one little thing out. You know, when Ophelia says no more but so, and Laertes says think it no more, that long spelling is think it no more, because he's catching that she's being playful about it and not serious about it. So that long spelling gives you an opportunity to
Correct.
be firmer, to understand this isn't a playful matter. I also think after our talk, you should notice that because Polonius has maybe 3 or 4 lines at the end, again, what is Ophelia doing? Is she not, she's not saying I obey you until the very end. So he's not convinced that she is going to obey him until he hears it out of her mouth. So whoever's playing Ophelia has got to have something happening in those moments that she's not speaking. And we would play with that more when we're up on our feet. But that's the key to a lot of these scenes. What is not said, what the reaction is, becomes very, very important. Because we tend so much. This is why I keep saying I respect scholars. I couldn't do my work without a scholar, but they look at it as literature and they tend to see the words only. We have to see what happens in the reaction to the words. And when there are no words, why does a character go on? You know, um, I think that's so key to our work, and we can even find it more on Zoom. I think if we're just conscious of that and don't worry about taking time. This is the time to take the time, because that's when we can discover why somebody is hesitating or why somebody is speaking a long speech. It's not Shakespeare being long-winded. It's because the other character is not responding the way the person who's speaking wants you to respond.
Hmm.
You know, the other thing that I also just want to keep pushing is I believe every line gives birth to the next line. So it's not 5 lines that make the baby. What has to happen is once you say something, if it hasn't landed, change your approach, then you change again. Because what happens, we fall into the trap of putting mood music about how we deliver lines. And that's why Shakespeare seems long, because I'm now going to do the one thing and then I'll just keep doing this because that's what I am and that's who I'll play. And it doesn't matter what I'm saying because you get the mood. You got to get rid of that. You've got to keep it moment to moment. When I don't get the response I want in life, I change. So particularly if the character is allowing me to keep going, then I change to get the response I want. And we have to start infusing our work with that. Okay. I think we're at the point where anybody can jump on who
Do
would
you mind
like.
if I just pitch a thing?
I don't mind at all.
Sorry. Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, this just struck me. I mean, Ophelia has choice. She has latitude in the conversation with Polonius until the end. She has all of a sudden, the hammer drops and she is charged with isolation from Hamlet.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's just so
That's why
huge.
that last line is so important. The thing now is that you are not to give words or talk.
And that refers to letters, right? Give words.
Everything.
Everything. Yep.
Yeah,
Any
okay.
And she's going to
communication.
say that in the next scene. She's going to say, he'll say, "What, did you give him any hard word?" And she says, "No, I did exactly what you told me. I denied his access to me." So she was following his orders. And then Polonius says, "Oh my God, I was wrong. That's what made him mad." I can't before that. So, but it's connected.
Just the potency of that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a real powerful finish.
And we have to see that, Lee. You're absolutely right. We have to see that here so it reflects on the next scene. It's not just an isolated scene where she happened to be, in her closet sewing and this happened. It's connected.
It's a
That's
progression. Yeah. Thanks. Just
And
wanted.
the other thing that Randy and I have talked about, if Hamlet wanted to kill himself after the Claudius and Gertrude his being rejected, not going back to Wittenberg. He's about to deal with rejection from Ophelia. And then in the next scene, he's going to be told by the ghost that he has to revenge his death. It's being heaped on Hamlet, scene by scene by scene. And interestingly enough, the last thing he wants to do is commit suicide. It turns him into a man of action. It doesn't make him, the suicide speech is at the beginning of the play. We don't get there again. So interesting. So Nathan, are you there, or does anybody else want to come on? I think we're ready.
Okay, great. Yeah, please, if anyone has any other comments or thoughts that they have on this scene, you're welcome to jump in.
And we're not done.
What I love. No.
Wait, we're not done. Next week, we're going to look at it again because we're just scratching the surface. We're going to get more specific now with it, now that we have the overall. Okay.
If any of you thought Annie was going to take a week off and just be relaxed, no, we're going full steam ahead into this scene again. And well, of course, as we get to the more well-known scenes, I'm sure we'll find a lot in there. But what I'm really enjoying about this exploration is these smaller scenes that can go by so quickly. How much we're able to find in there and explore and discuss. Well, what's the dynamic here, and what are these characters really saying? So it's I felt that with the first scene of the play, the opening scene, and now with this scene, that even though these aren't like kind of the tentpole scenes of the play, there's very important information being communicated, not only to the characters but to us as the audience. And there's just so much. There's so much in there. It's so rich. So yeah, I'm really enjoying the discussions and all the ideas and the inspirations of what could we do and what, how, of course, staging and all that. But yeah, no, I think it's been great. Anyone else want to? Is there anything else that any of the audience members too? Of course, you're always you're in fact encouraged in this to jump in and share if you have any thoughts.
As with
Anyone?
all of the weeks that we've been doing this, but just mentioning it today, I take so many notes on things that I don't always pick up on. And then when we went back to the top of the show and read through everything, all these things that I had written down that I hadn't known or learned a little bit more about, all of a sudden when that line came up, I was like, I understand it even more now. So it's just so cool to see how much you think, how many things can be said about one scene, and the amount of things that we talk about is so exponential that when you go back to it and read it as is without the discussion in between, all of a sudden it all pieces together in my head. So I appreciate this. I love being here. So thank you for having me.
That's great to hear, Sarah. Yeah. Yeah, it is a bit of a like having this foreign language understanding in your head where like you have a deeper meaning and you're watching something in another language, you're like, but I actually know what they're saying. And
exactly.
I think that's if only we could be we could be doing this with every play, and or any theater could like really walk through their audience of, before you come see this, let's really dive into it, so when you actually experience it, you're just watching it on another level. So I'm thrilled to hear that that's your experience, Sarah.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
Nathan, too, by the time we get through September and Hamlet meets the ghost of his father, that's Shakespeare's first act. And this first act of his goes from the time the ghost is seen to the time the ghost and his son meet together. That lays the foundation for everything that's going to happen from there on. And this little scene with Polonius and Ophelia and Laertes, the fruition of this is going to pay off as the play progresses. We're going to get to see it. Ophelia's relationship to Hamlet, Laertes' relationship to his father, all of that pays off later in the play. But seeds are being planted in this act right now. But the impetus of the act is the ghost and Hamlet's meeting with that figure, which will lay the foundation for the revenge, and it starts the play, and the play becomes much more complex emotionally and psychologically as it proceeds after that.
Yeah. Very exciting. Very
Yeah.
exciting. And I don't know if anyone else had this experience as we were listening to, all the scenes, but it's similar to Sarah's, where I was just thinking, my goodness, there is so much going on. Just because of how much time we've spent with these scenes and characters, I'm just listening to like all of the stuff that's building and mounting, and we're 10 minutes, 15 minutes into the play. Like there's already so much happening that it just in a good way, there's like such, it's such a heavier experience because we've explored so many of the nooks and crannies and ins and outs that it's not just, oh, okay, first scene, all right, when's Hamlet get on? Well, what's his first soliloquy? There's just so much more happening and much more alive, at least for me, with all these characters. Just so much more going on, and I think that's just been such a, a fun experience. And I imagine for those who have been involved in the play, you're again, you're probably still finding new things that you're like, I was in the show and I didn't realize that this was here. Or Ben, I thought your points about the types of Laertes you've seen and just different ideas and inspirations. I think that's one of the great benefits of us doing this work is that it just hopefully continues to inspire not only us here at this time, but those who come and watch this later, that they can get inspired of I've never thought of Hamlet like that, or I've never thought of Ophelia like that. What if we did that? And Liz, when you mentioned the Los Angeles production, I was furiously Googling to read more about this.
Oh,
And yes, it seemed quite conceptual.
it was
I,
excruciating.
but hey, as even one of the reviewers said, Hamlet will survive that production and that director, and it leaves room for more people to be inspired and do different things. But as Annie reminds you, that's not Shakespeare. Go do your own play.
That's right. The
So
other thing that occurred to me is that a bad rendering or even a bad actor can't destroy Shakespeare, but a good actor can bring to it such life. And that's what I got out of that Ophelia story when they allowed the great actresses to do, one little story, Henrik Ibsen, when he did the Hedda Gabler, and his first actress that he had do the maid in that she was the renowned actress in Norway. And she said, "Why would you ever cast me in this role?" And he said, "Because this role deserves a great actress." But she thought it was an insult. But I keep thinking of that with all of these roles, to think that Ophelia is not a great role. Maybe it says more of us about not being able to fill her shoes, but a great that's why I'm hoping the young people have an opportunity to aspire to greatness again. I think we've lost it. We've put our lives in the hands of directors who, again, I say some are wonderful, but our aspiration, our desire to be a great actor. I hope young people can aspire to that again. I think it's just so important because it's how you will live your life from now on. From being young as you grow older, because that's what you want. You want to be better and better and worthy of these great plays. I'll shut up.
no, it's a wonderful point, and I think a great place to leave on. Um, So I want to thank everybody for your participation and involvement as we embark on these couple scenes. Very exciting times ahead. We'll get a lot deeper into all of this. And yeah, thank you everybody. Those who are watching, come on back, subscribe, donate if you can, and we'll keep having fun here. So we'll see everybody next week. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you guys. Really, thank you
Thank
so much.
you.